the whole Airbud moment where he's like, buddy, stay on the boat, and he has to go.
Buddy, get. Go! Get out of here! Don't you understand?
Welcome back to AsArt. My name is Nick, and today we are breaking down His Dark Materials, Season 3, Episode 3 and 4. A lot has happened in these 2 episodes, and just so you know, me and Kyle did a breakdown on the Land of the Dead and the Harpies, which includes the boatman and what happens. So just in case you want more in-depth book material, go check out those deep dive videos. But we're going to also be doing a lot of deep dive in this video. And this weekend, Saturday, Kyle will be here to do all the deep diving with me this weekend. So subscribe to get all the updates. By the way, if you're a fan of Gallivespians and their dragonflies, go to asart.space. We got cool His Dark Materials shirts. Okay, let's go. Spoilers up ahead. I'm going to be spoiling episodes 3 and 4 just in case. Turn around, watch the episode first, but we're going to be jumping into it, comparing it to the book, and also some good stuff. But right off the bat, I just want to say before we get there, I'm going to be going in chronological order for the most part of the episodes, but the boat scene at the end was such a good, they did such a good job from the book translating into the show. That's just like the bear fight with Yurik and Will. I mean, the boatman, it was good. A lot of good lines. They talk about a lot, but we'll jump into that at the end because we're going to go chronologically. All right, let's go. So let's jump into it. It's so cool. He leaves the knife with the Gallivespian. I'm so bummed there's only one, but yes, we talked about that in the last one, and they're having the discussion of if they should go to the Land of the Dead or not. And the dialogue's pretty different from the books, but still to the core, it's good. And it's kind of, they're going to loop back to reason why, because of the way they're doing this with how they're doing the transition into the world of the dead. So it kind of makes sense for the story, the way they're portraying it on screen. And then we jump to Yurik. Gosh, this was so rough. This is why I made such a big stink on the boat last episode, because they go to Yurik, like, Yurik, we need you to do this. And Yurik has all this info on the knife. He's doing the way he's explaining it is great. The knife has a will of its own, all that. It's all great. That's all part of the book stuff, but it's all happening now. And it's just weird that he just knows everything when it comes to the knife, where the only time he ever saw it that he's seen it was when he cut the helmet. So it's just like, that was a little rough. It was good though, because of the book material. And in the book, Lyra lies saying that they should go to the Land of the Dead, even though the alethiometer says no, it's very dangerous and you shouldn't. She lies to Yurik, and that's still all part of it. It's also different too, because they do it in a cave, and it's this whole thing where the Gallivespians help out. There's no reminding me of Harry Potter's death scene. Not death scene. Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Remember when like Voldemort's in his head and he's like, no, I have friends or whatever, and he's like fighting in his mind kind of thing. That was kind of weird, the way Will put the knife back together, but it works because he has to get the knife back together because they have to go to the Land of the Dead. So jumping from there, we have the intention craft scene. So the council and everyone's judging her, that's all a part of it. What's not a part of it is the angel torture scene. Obviously, like we've seen, the angel's name is supposed to be there, so that's all added for story plot and stuff like that. So that is very interesting. And then also the intention craft scene, the way she gets away, she does get away using the intention craft, and it's supposed to happen pretty closely after they allowed her into like the gang kind of thing. Like they trust her, and then she steals the intention craft, but then Lord Azrael, anyways, and that happens, and she goes back to the church. So that does happen, but the way it happened with the angel and stuff like that is a little bit different, but she does have the Gallivespian with her. So that is a part of the story. And, yeah, and then also what's also part of the story too is like, the hair, the whole thing with the hairline, with the storyline with the hair, not the hairline, is all part of it. Gomez is not supposed to be there at all. Father Gomez is supposed to be tracking Mary Malone. And it was interesting too, because they left the scarf there. So someone's going to track her later on with the scarf. So they're like, ooh, she left this. Oh my gosh. the Mary Malone thing, I'll get into that later. I have a lot of thoughts on that whole sequence with the Mulefa, but we'll jump into that later. But yeah, Father Gomes isn't even supposed to be there. It's so weird that he's like a main character. I like it though because he's more involved in the story, but I also liked it though too because he was like on a whole other mission, but in the book. So I prefer his mission in the book, but I'm okay with what they're doing with him here. Yeah, it's oh boy. Okay, so the knife is fixed and they want to go to the land of the dead. So Lyra and Will are like together, and then Balthamos appears. It's not supposed to happen that way at all, but Balthamos appears and he's like, I have a mission of my own. Oh boy. So much with Balthamos has been bugging me, man. What they're doing to his storyline. Not a fan of that scene. We are going to see him later on, hopefully. I don't know if they're even going to keep to the story plot. But I'm not going to spoil that. That's like a big spoiler. If you hear our deep down breakdowns, you might know what we're talking about. If you read the books, you know what I'm talking about too. So I don't know what was the point of bringing him back just for him to leave again. That bugged me. That really bugged me. But overall, I thought it was cool when she like went to go touch him. That like, you know, the dust just kind of goes around his fingers, like, because so he's not physical form. Because that was one thing in the books. And we also had a really great comment too. I can't remember the full comment, but I'll put it up here on the screen while I'm talking about it. Angels were jealous of humans being able to be in true form. And that was like a whole thing, like where we'll see kind of, I don't want to spoil it, but that's like a major plot thing in the future too. Like, I'm not going to spoil it, but, so it is interesting that they're always in real human form because they're supposed to be jealous of it because they don't have it. And yeah, that whole thing. Okay. The next episode, they get to the land of the dead. Big difference from the book. When they get there in the book with the Gallivespians, Salmalia and all, you know, the gang, they have a group of them. It's really cool because they go to a city which someone just dies and they see like the person just dead and stuff. And then they cut through another layer, which leads them to the land of the dead where the dead guy who they saw just died is like a ghost now. And he realizes he's dead and he's like freaking out and they're like, what's going on? And then he gets called by this path and it's just like cool transition to the land of the dead. Like the way they walk there and it just slowly appears. And then something similar kind of happens where they try to go and they get stopped and they're like, you have to go to the suburbs, the waiting area. Completely different visually than what I imagined in the books because it's like an actual town. And in the books, you can see everyone else's death. You can physically see everyone's death because like their deaths hang out outside and then the people are waiting inside these buildings and stuff. And there's so much cool stuff that happens there with the people there. And then the way Lyra even finds out how to communicate to her death is by talking to someone else's death. It's so cool. It's so cool in the books. If you haven't read the books, I highly recommend you read the books or do the audiobook in Audible. I highly recommend it. Go check it out. But they definitely change that whole sequence. And also her death is like an old man. And it's not a woman. It's an old man in the books. So that kind of threw me off. But it's fine because I think it's like your demon. It's supposed to be the opposite of you, right? Like Pan's a dude and she's a dudette. You know what I mean? Like the differences and stuff like that. So, but they changed that, which is fine. But yes, the boat freaking scene was spot on. All the moment once they walk through the doors and she tries to hop on the boat, he's like, everyone can come but them. And then when she says that thing, like such a good line, even from the books, well, if we separate, I die. He's like, well, that's the point, right? You want to go to the land of the dead. And it was very interesting too, because they were building it up like she knew she was going to die kind of. It was kind of weird. Like she's been having the dreams and seen like she has to be separated. Pan wasn't even in the dreams with her when she was on the boat. So it was like this idea like she was going to be separated. So in my head, I'm like, this is weird. She's already like kind of preparing for death. Where in the book, she's totally clueless. Because think about it. she's been able to get out of everything, right? She got out of the bear fight. She got out of the whole, the torture scene. She broke away from Miss Coulter. Like every situation she's been in, she's been able to get out. If it's by lying, conniving, or just finding a way out. But the idea behind the boatman is like, you can't, there's no other way. It's a law. That line is straight from the books. He says it's not a rule, it's a law. And just like it's a law, when I scoop up water, it drops because it's like gravity and doesn't flow in the air kind of thing. So all that, a lot of the lines too that were on the boat were very similar to book lines. So far, it was one of the strongest scenes so far with the kids. Mrs. Coulter, Lord Asriel, I've been loving their scenes together. They've been doing great. Kind of lacking with Will and Lyra for me, but this really sealed it. I'm like, dude, that's the scene right there. And they nailed it. I always imagined the boatman to be different. It was fine. It's okay. Visually, you have your own thoughts and stuff, but the whole Airbud moment where he's like, buddy, stay on the boat and he has to go.
Buddy, get. Go! Get out of here! Don't you understand?
It's so intense. I was like starting to tear up a little bit. I was like, oh my gosh, because I just know what's happening and the pain and all that stuff. And it's so cool too, because in the books, the Gallivespians with them, they also feel something leaving them too. It's so great in the books. And like I said, highly recommend reading the books. There's so much good material in the books. But gosh, yeah, gosh, that was great. And then the other thing I want to mention here too is, well, there's a couple more things. But we got to talk about the Mulefa. Okay, so the Mulefa in the books. Mulefa are like a diamond-shaped creature. They travel on sea pods. They're always with their sea pods. They do have trunks, but they're always with their seed pods. They're like a motorcycle gang in the book. Like the first time Mary Malone sees them, it's like she thinks it's a herd of motorcycle. Like it's like a motorcycle gang in the distance. They're like rolling. She also noticed there's like pathways that are made because they make them because they roll on these giant seed pods, which come from giant trees. Because first she recognizes there's giant trees in the land, like the redwoods. She also sees giant seed pods on the ground. So she's like, oh my gosh, these things are huge, blah, blah, blah. It's a giant seed pod. And then later on, she realizes they ride the seed pods. They, like, one leg goes in the front and hooks in, and the other goes in the back, and their other two legs kind of, whatever. It's pretty trippy in the books, too, because everything in this world's like diamond shaped. But gosh, they completely changed the way they meet up in the books, which is fine. That must have been something funky to have to do with VFX or something like that, too. But boy, the seed pod. So the book is called The Amber Spyglass, the third book, and it has to do with her creating the spyglass. And part of creating the spyglass is the seed pods have a special oil coating on it, which like emits dust like crazy. It's like this awesome, cool substance, which she puts on the lens, and then she can see dust through it, and it's just incredible. And oh boy, if they're not writing it, I don't know what's going to happen, but judging it too early, we only got a tease of it. It could totally change, but I know me and Kyle will be talking a lot about it. We're probably also going to be talking a lot about the bomb and explain the way the bomb works, because I've been telling Kyle we need to do a deep dive on that. We'll probably do that this weekend. Well, it will be out this weekend. We're going to talk later in the week. Comments down below. We're going to read some comments from the last two videos when we do this review video or deep dive breakdown video. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what else happens. The VFX still is pretty impressive. Oh man, there's some things, but overall I'm enjoying it, because it's when they get it right, they get it right with the books, and it's like you can tell the heart and soul is there. And obviously you can't do 1-to-1 ratio of the book, but I highly recommend the book. I don't know if you guys ever read the Harry Potter books and then you watch the movies, but the Harry Potter books are so detailed and there's so much rich extra content and lore. Like for example, Mary Malone. Okay, when Mary Malone goes in in between worlds and what other characters do too, like Will and stuff like that. It's so cool in the book because the book will be like, oh, this was made during the American, Revolutionary War when the guy cut this hole or whatever. And they like do cool histories behind each hole which was made, or not holes, but cuts in the multi-worlds which were made. So there's a lot of cool info and stuff in the books. But you know what? That's a quick wrap up now. But please comment down below. We're definitely going to read some comments this next video. We might even do a dedicated comment video. Actually, we used to do that for other videos. We have enough to make a comment video, so I'll probably tell Kyle we're going to do that. And by the way, if you are a fan of the Gallivespians with the dragonflies, highly recommend going to asart.space to get his Dark Materials shirts. And we have other shirts there too, from Lord of the Rings nerdy stuff to Raised by Wolves. We're creating more and more. We're artists and we like to express ourselves that way. And I think it's fun to share with the community. But thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next AsArt.